Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here. Round 1 of the 2024-25 NBA playoffs is in the books, and while one conference certainly panned out as the seedings essentially expected it, it was the Western Conference that certainly provided some highlights, some spills, some thrills, and for lack of a better term, some ups and downs. While there certainly were their whitewashes, there certainly were some close and competitive battles as well, not only in the West but certainly in the East, and it is shaping up to be a very, very competitive second round. It has already tipped off and begun has the second round, but I'm excited to see exactly how it continues to unfold and who will be facing who in the conference finals. So without further ado, let's get into it. My round 1 review for the 24-25 NBA playoffs. Of course, starting in the Eastern Conference, and as expected, Cleveland, the number 1 seed in the East, wasn't really a shock when they truly took on a 10th seed Miami team, swept them off the floor 4-0 there. Donovan Mitchell, the best player for the Cavs, 23.8 points, 3.3 rebounds, 4 assists to go, 1.5 steals and 1.5 turnovers. Mitchell just continues to be one of the better scoring guards in the playoffs, certainly in recent years, and continues to show why he is a number 1 option. 47.8% from the field, 45.7% from deep, 72.2% from the free throw line. Looking across the rest of the series with different teammates and opposition, rounded numbers for Evan Mobley, 16, 7 and 2 with 1 steal, 1 block, 60% shooting from the field, 47% from deep and 88% from the stripe. Ty Jerome, 16, 4 and 5 to go with a steal on 52% from the floor, 50% from deep and 85% from the line. And Jared Allen, these are all for the series by the way, a rounded 14, 10 and 1 with 3 steals and a block to go with 78% from the field and 100% from the line. On the other side of things there for Miami, not as pleasant as you'd expect. Tyler Hero around at 18, 4 and 3 for the series at 42% from the field, 31% from deep. Bam Adebayo around at 18, 11 and 4 at 44% from the field, 33% from deep and 64% from the line. Certainly not present or pleasant there. Davion Mitchell, the other D Mitchell in this series, around at 15, 2 and 6 on 61% from the field, 50% from deep, but did sort of let himself down there, 43% from the line. And Andrew Wiggins around at 12, 3 and 2 with 1 block a game on 37% from the field, let alone 35% from the arc there. One of the record-setting sweeps in recent history, just ultimately belted the absolute P155 out of the Heat there, did the Cavs, got the job done. As you would expect, again, another prime example why the play-in tournament just shouldn't go ahead. You've got a 10th seed here. This is how they performed. This is how they played. Average winning margin of over 30 points per game. That says enough for me as to why you need to get rid of this. I'm not saying that the 8th seed would have done much better, but they wouldn't have done any worse. Cleveland with as efficient scoring the ball series that I've seen in a long time. They struggled to miss, 50, 40, 80 from all over the floor there. Really nice work from them. And no shock that the best team in the East beat a 10th seed, really, as outlined there. So the Cavs, they move into the second round and, do it with relative ease there. No doubt about that. The Boston Celtics, they moved in with relative ease as well, defeating the Orlando Magic. Orlando were a 500 team on the year, battling through injuries and inconsistent lineups to get to that spot there. No doubt they will bounce back, and I'd expect to see them with 50 wins next year. The leader for Boston in this series, though, Jaylen Brown, he just has this propensity to turn up in the playoffs and really change his game. 23 points, 7.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists per game in the series to go with 1.2 steals, 0.2 blocks on 3.2 turnovers. Shot 49.4% from the field, 44.4% from deep, and 84.4% from the free throw line. The rest of his Boston teammates joined in with some really consistent performances as well. You'll notice the players I list here all played at least 5 games in the series. Derek White rounded 17, 5 and 5 with a steal and a block per game to go 51% shooting from the field, 36% from deep and 89% from the line. Kristaps Porzingis rounded 12, 6 and 1 to go with 2 steals and a block. He shot 36% from the field, 12% from deep, 71% from the free throw line. By no means was he efficient. And the sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard, a rounded 9, 2 and 1 with 1 steal on 52% from the field and 50% from deep, really helping get the job done there. On the other side of things for Orlando, 2 clear standout leaders who have set the tone moving into next year. Paolo Banchero, a rounded 29, 8 and 4 on the series, 1 steal, 1 block, 44% from the field and from deep. Not great from the line at 66%. Franz Wagner really showing his consistency all throughout the year. Had the same numbers pretty much. 26, 5 and 6 to go with a steal. 44% from the field. Let himself down. Sub 20% from deep. 77% from the free throw line. Wendell Carter Jr. around at 10, 11 and 1 to go with 53% shooting from the field. 60% from the line and 28% from deep. Not ideal. And Anthony Black around at 8 and 4 to go with 1 steal on 41%. So ultimately, when you're going to look at things all over the series, the defending champions disposed of a 500 team as expected. Let's not hype it up to be any more than it was. That's exactly what it was. The defending champs who won 60 games, 20 games clear of their opposition, beat them in 5. Well done. Keeping in mind, Boston did this with Tatum and White only playing 2 games each. So yeah, I probably muddled that a little bit with Derek White there. He played okay. That might have even been Drew Holiday numbers. I'll double check that one there for further discourse. But I mean, it says a lot that the defending champs, 2 of their best players, only playing 2 games in the series. Orlando will be back, as I mentioned. I expect them to win 50 games if they're healthy next year. And you would say that Boston should clear away their next opponent with relative ease based on how they've been performing, but that very well could be the opposite. It'll be very interesting to see how their next series goes. The New York Knicks, well, they looked a little shaky here or there, but a big winner from Jalen Brunson ended it for Detroit in the playoffs. So the Knicks advanced to the second round, 4-2 win over the Pistons. Jalen Brunson on the series, while he certainly wasn't the number one man in the regular season, he more than proved himself once again to be as valuable as anyone in this league when it comes to the postseason. In 6 games, 31.5 points, 4 rebounds, 8.2 assists, 0.3 steals, 0.3 blocks on 2.7 turnovers, sub 45 from the field, which doesn't always impress me at 43.6%. Made a third of his threes and 81.5% from the free throw line. If you look over the series there for New York, Jalen Brunson, as I mentioned, with his numbers. Karl Anthony Towns for the series around a 20, 10 and 2, 49, 48, 90 splits. Really nice work there from the big fella. OG Anunoby, one of the leading defenders of the league, and has always been a nice pinch hitter for playoff-bound teams. Around at 17, 5 and 1 with 3 steals and a block. 42% from the field's not ideal, but 91% from the stripe, making up for it when he got his chances. And Mikal Bridges, a really nice series for him as well. Again, another guy who's always been key on contending teams. Around at 16, 5 and 2 with 2 steals and a block on 48 from the field and 86% from the line. So again, one of the best defensive combinations in the league, getting it done. On the other side of things there for Detroit, their first playoff series in a number of years, securing their first playoff game wins for nearly 20 years. Cade Cunningham for the series around 25, 8 and 9, 2 steals and a block. 43% from the field, 83% from the line, 18% from deep. He'll learn on it, he'll grow on it. It's a huge turnaround by Detroit. Tobias Harris, 16, 8 and 1 rounded figures to go with a steal and a block per game. 48% from the field, 100% from the line, 44% from deep. Jalen Duren around at 12, 11 and 4 with 2 blocks a game on 65% from the floor. And Asar Thompson, 12, 5 and 1s across the rest of the board on 57% shooting. When you look at this series overall, a few factors there for me. Obviously, the Knicks scraped through compared to the standards set, and that is probably the only concern for them moving into the second round. Now, I did touch on the fact that you would think Boston's next journey was going to be a bit easier. The Knicks did actually scrape game 1 at the time of recording. So, maybe it's a bit of a warm-up and a tester for them, but I think they're going to need to really lift their standards. They're going to secure that series. As I mentioned, Brunson again proving why he's so important to that New York team as the guy who delivers when it matters the most. Karl Anthony Towns, still a couple of questions. Are the lights a bit too bright for him in the postseason? Are they going to be even brighter for him now that he's in New York? Is he going to be able to handle it? And as I mentioned, Detroit with a great result for a 30-game swing in the playoff series to go 6. Really competitive series for them, really good result, and you would expect for them to build on that as the years go on. So a nice solid series there, I think, for New York. They're going to have to lift, and for Detroit, a really good pace setter. To end the first round in the Eastern Conference, the Indiana Pacers, as the 4 seed, defeated the Milwaukee Bucks, the 5th seed, 4-1. Now, I thought this one might have been a little bit closer, but it wasn't. Nonetheless, the Pacers get the job done. They've been one of the informed teams of the entire league for the better part of 4 months now. The leader in that series for me for Indiana, Pascal Siakam, 19.8 points, 6 rebounds, 2.4 assists a game to go with 1.2 steals, 0.4 blocks, and just a shade over 1 turnover a game. Really efficient scoring the basketball as well. 55.6 from the floor, 44.4 from deep, and 73.3% from the stripe as we go back across the board the rest of the way. For the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton certainly no stranger to wanting to play a big game. Around at 18, 6 and 12 on the series. To make a very good case, he was their best player. I just thought the efficiency side of things hurt him there. 42% from the field, 27% from deep. Going to need more out of him there for consideration, but 81% from the free throw line is nice. Miles Turner, 17, 5 and 2 to go with 2 blocks a game. I thought he was one of the leading defenders of the league this year. 51% from the field, 38% from deep as a big man, and 83 from the stripe. I can't complain. And Nembhard there, around at 15, 3 and 5 to go with 1 steal. Hyper efficient numbers. 49% from the field, 50% from deep, and 100% from the line. On the other side of things for the Bucks, well, Giannis couldn't do much more. 33, 15 and 7 for the series. 61% from the field, 70% from the line. Certainly lifted his numbers there. Gary Trent Jr. Tried to lift where he could, around at 18, 2 and 1 with 3 steals. 50% from the field, or 52% from the field, 50% from deep, 80% from the line. Bobby Portis bouncing back from his suspension, around at 14 and 8 for the series. Sub 45 from the field, let alone 50% for the big man there. And Kevin Porter Jr., 11 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists to go with 1 steal. Just scraping 40% from the field, 47% from deep, and 85% from the free throw line. Ultimately, the Indiana Pacers have not received the respect they deserved on the year, and they got their earned result. People don't necessarily like how Halliburton goes around it. They don't necessarily rate Siakam now he's not there, but the Pacers have a really rounded and deep team, have for a while. That's why they keep getting results. The Bucks seem to have jumped from one issue to another in and out of the playoffs, whether it's injuries, whether it's concerns, whether it's aggressiveness, who knows. There's going to be some real interesting decisions made now, particularly with the injury to Dame, as to what happens there with Milwaukee. Do they blow it up? Do they trade Giannis? Do they get pieces? Who knows? For the Pacers, they could be a sneaky chance at the Eastern Conference Finals thanks to that deep and rounded team, and they did secure a first game win against Cleveland. That's something they will want to turn around, no doubt, for the Cavs. And again, as we mentioned, where to for the Bucks? Does Giannis take the Kareem road? Does he head to New York? Does he head to LA? Who knows? But more questions for the for the Bucks than there are answers for the Pacers after this series. Moving over to the Western Conference, and we start with the league leading the points differential all-time leaders, Oklahoma City Thunder, sweeping the Memphis Grizzlies like no tomorrow, 4-0. Jalen Williams, for me, was their best performed player when it comes to scoring efficiency on both sides of the ball. 23.3 points, 5.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists to go with 1.5 steals and 0.5 blocks, less than 2 turnovers, as you can see on the screen. 54.2% from the field, 28.6 from deep. Isn't really ideal, nor is the 60% from the free throw line, but he was as efficient as any scorer in that series. For the rest of the team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP contender, 28, 5 and 6 rounded on 40% from the field, 25% from deep, and 91% from the line. Chet Holmgren really tried to step up there, around at 19 and 8 with 3 blocks on 44% from the field, 42% from deep, and 86% from the free throw line. And it was the defense of Alex Caruso that really stepped up as well. Plenty of criticism around this guy, but he has managed to get the job done nicely. Around at 7, 4 and 4, 2 steals and a block on 46% from the field, 39% from deep. On the other side of things, through 4 games, having played for Memphis, Scottie Pippen Jr. really having a nice standout series. Had an okay year, but really stapling himself here. Around at 18, 6 and 4. Subpar shooting, 38% from the field, 36% from deep, but perfect from the line. Jaren Jackson Jr., one of the leading contenders and one of the leading defenders in the league this year, around at 16, 5 and 2 with a steal and a block. Sub 40% shooting from him and sub 30 from deep as well. Desmond Bane just tries to be that consistent factor where he can be, and although he had a rounded 15, 7 and 3, it came sub 35% shooting and sub 25 from deep. And Aldama just trying to do what he can where he could, around at 13, 6 and 2, 48% from the field, 42% from deep. Oklahoma City Thunder outscored by Memphis in the sweep by 78 points. Now that factors in not only their 51-point barrage in Game 1, that also factors in a 29-point recovery to get the game sealed. I believe it was in Game 3. The margin's more incredible when you consider those factors. It could have been a hell of a lot worse there, so Memphis really getting away with one there. Could have probably scraped a fifth game. Unfortunately, an injury to Ja Morant certainly didn't help, and general concerns there in the Memphis camp. Didn't help, though, that Memphis had 35 more turnovers than their opposition. You are not going to win any form of series, let alone playoff series, against a team when you give them 35 more possessions. That converts to, a basket for every turnover. That's insane. The lockdown defense of the Thunder does have to be credited there. It's as impressive as anything they do on the offensive end. And again, a big reason they set the record historically for points differential in a single season. So the Thunder moving on comprehensively to the second round. Going from the first seed, we head over to the second seed battle, but it wasn't to be as the Houston Rockets went down to the Golden State Warriors 4-3 in a tough 7-game series, leading the way for his team in points, rebounds, assists. Well, not a shock there. It is Steph Curry. Averaged 24 points, 5.9 rebounds, 5.7 assists per game to go 1.1 steals, 0.9 blocks on 3.7 turnovers, 3.7 turnovers a game. Shot 47.1 from the field, 39.2 from deep, and 89.3 from the free throw line. If we go over and look at the rest of his teammates for the series, Jimmy Butler rounded 18, 6 and 5 on 47% from the field, 31% from deep and 84 from the line. Buddy Hield with a huge Game 7. You heard the Klay Thompson game. Well, they just had the Buddy Hield game around at 11, 3 and 1, 48% from the field, 43% from deep. And Draymond Green being his usual defensive antagonistic self around at 8, 6 and 3, 2 and 1, sub 40% from the field. For Houston, Alperen Sengun with a nice playoff debut, averaged a rounded 21, 12 and 5 with 2 steals, 45% from the field, 38 from deep. Not a big fan of the field goal percentage, and 63% from the field from the stripe has a lot to work to do. Fred VanVleet with his, expected Fred VanVleet contributions there, around at 19, 4 and 4 to go with the steal, 43% from the field, 44 from deep, 100% from the line. Armin Thompson rounded 16, 7 and 3 to go with 2 steals and a block. Thought he was our most consistent player, and I say that as a Rockets fan. 49, 25, 69 splits. And Dylan Brooks, my other nomination there for the Rockets, 12, 3 and 1 to go with a steal. 44, 35, 83 splits there. It's one of only a handful of series where both teams scored the same amount of points in NBA history. That's the kind of series that you saw out of the Rockets and the Warriors. 641 points each, I do believe, was the final score there. A great learning series for the Rockets. What do they need to do next is the real question. Jalen Green has shown over the last couple of years in the regular season he can certainly step up. Far from what was needed this playoff series, and really relegated to, close to the fifth option and at times unplayable in the series. So it'll be interesting to see what Houston will do. Ultimately, you never underestimate what playoff experience can do in a tight series, and that's exactly what Golden State had the advantage of there. They've been in multiple playoff series, multiple deep runs to the finals. That experience was always going to heed well for them in Game 7. But interestingly enough, for Golden State in their next series, it's going to be the old guard versus the new guard when they look to take on the team that won the next series that I'm about to speak about. It could be make or break. The winner of this goes through to a conference final, and then anything is very well possible for either side. Moving on to the next matchup, as I mentioned, the winner of this series, the Minnesota Timberwolves, will be taking on the Golden State Warriors in the conference semis, and they disposed of the Lakers pretty comprehensively. 4-1, Minnesota the 6th seed in this one here, the Lakers the 3rd seed, so Golden State being the 7th seed, I should say, defeating the Houston Rockets there. For Anthony Edwards, stepping up, stepping out, big series for him. 26.8 points, 8.4 rebounds, 6.2 assists to go, 1.2 steals and 0.4 blocks on 1.2 turnovers. Subpar shooting, but it really was the defensive side of the ball that helped Minnesota get over the line. 42% from the field there for Edwards, 33.3% from deep, 77.4% from the free throw line. Everyone else across across the board there for Minnesota. We had Julius Randle averaging around a 23, 5 and 4 on 48, 39, 84 splits. Jaden McDaniels was huge, around at 17, 6 and 1 to go with 1 steal, around at 57, 38, 85 from the line. And Naz Reid, a huge contribution off the bench, around at 12, 4 and 1s the rest of the way on 53, 50, 64. So outside of Edwards, you can really see the solid contribution. And of course, Rudy Gobert with that monster Game 5 to put the dagger through the Lakers. On the other side of things there, for the purple and gold, Luka around at 37 and 6 with 1s across the board the rest of the way, 45, 35, 89 splits. For LeBron, it was 25, 9 and 6, 2 and 2, around averages there to go 49, 36, 78 across the board. Austin Reeves around at 16, 5 and 4 with 1 block a game on 41, 32, 86 splits. And Rui Hashimura with 15, 5 and 1s the rest of the way on 49, 48, 100 splits. This was a prime example of how team basketball is better than ISO basketball in a 5-on-5 situation. Ultimately, the Lakers don't run a lot of great sets. They do have a lot of independent isolation play through Luka and through LeBron right now. Whether that is meant to work for them moving forward, I'm not too sure, but certainly in a playoff environment against a team like Memphis, it was not going to pan out well. For the Lakers, this is the worst loss for them in playoff history as far as favouritism. It's the first time they've been a 3rd seed or higher and never made it out of the first round. Edwards and McDaniels now have to have some serious contention as the best duo in the league. When you look at what they bring on both sides of the ball, capability offensively and willingness to play on the defensive end. The obvious other question for LA is where to on the floor and where to on the whiteboard. Ultimately, they've got to be able to draw things up and get plays running. Is JJ Redick going to be that guy? I don't know. Is the roster what they need? I don't think so. We'll see what transpires in the offseason. And as I mentioned, Rudy Gobert with yet another huge series closing game. He had one last year to get it done over Denver. He's had one here to get it done against the Lakers. Let's put some respect on his name. And finally, rounding out the West, the Denver Nuggets in another 7-game classic, you could say, getting it done against the Los Angeles Clippers, 4-3. A really good series through 6 games, albeit the last one being, nothing but a one-sided contest. Denver up by 35 as much as in that game. Jokic averaging a triple-double on the series. No shock there. Really good series by him. That's on the screen there. 24 points, 11.6 rebounds, 10.1 assists to go, 2.3 steals, 0.9 blocks on 3.4 turnovers a game. 50% from the field, 45.2 from deep, dropped from the free throw line at 70%. Would the series have been over if he shot better from there? I don't know. Jamal Murray managed to have his Jamal Murray games throughout the series and really bump his numbers up around at 23, 5 and 6 with 1s the rest of the way. 48, 40, 90 splits for that effort as well. Aaron Gordon, as expected, stepping up in that third option, 19, 6 and 2 with 1 steal a game on 52, 29, 87 splits. And Christian Brown, 13, 6 and 2 with 1 steal a game on 49, 32, 46 splits. On the other side of the ball, Kawhi Leonard continued to be Kawhi Leonard for most of the journey, around a 25, 8 and 5, 1s the rest of the way, 54, 41, 78 splits. James Harden numbers certainly flatter what he was able to do and certainly should have presented based on form. 19, 5 and 9 with 1s the rest of the way, 44% from the field, 36 from deep, 82 from the line. Typical Harden playoff series. Zubac's a real career year for him. 17, 10 and 2 with 1s the rest of the way. 66 from the field, 54 from the line. And Norman Powell, who certainly dropped off after the All-Star game, certainly had more of a career year. Around at 16, 2 and 2 with 1 steal on 47, 35, 78 splits in the postseason. It's one of the better basketball series the league's had in the last few years. That's the kind of series that the league wants to have. Ideally, they want to have it between their big guys, and ultimately, it's the kind of series that they want to have in the NBA Finals. But if they're going to draw this level of interest in the first round, they shouldn't be complaining too much. Again, it was a close series through 6, but the shortfalls for the Clippers in Game 7 just become way too much to overcome. James Harden, another big factor in that once again. But should we be expecting more out of a guy who's delivered consistently less and less as the playoffs have gone on? Denver hitting their strides at the right time. Jokic just continues to rack up those numbers. And when I say they're hitting their straps at the right time, they did deliver a big first-round punch against the Oklahoma City Thunder in their first game in the second round to take the lead there. And ultimately, again, James Harden, another case of the lights just being too bright in the postseason for him. Not a shock there. The Clippers back to the drawing board. They've got some pieces, but age and injury certainly becoming a factor the more that time goes on. For Denver, right place, right time. Where will they finish in this postseason? And that's been my take on the first round of the playoffs for the 24-25 NBA season. What did you think of each particular conference? The Eastern Conference there, all top 4 seeds managing to get through in that first round. Meanwhile, in the West, only the 2 seeds, the first and the 4th seed, getting through, while seeds number 6 and 7 managed to push through. It's going to be an interesting playoffs the rest of the way. It's going to be very competitive. And no doubt an upset here or there very well will change the title picture. Anyway, guys, that's been me. Thank you for tuning in. The second round is well underway, and hopefully we'll get through that soon. We'll have a wrap-up podcast of that, as well as the conference finals once it happens, and then we'll look to go game by game for the NBA finals. Anyway, guys, that's been me. I'm out.